The kingdom of my divine will in the midst of creatures. Book of Heaven, Volume 30, Part 5. January 7th, 1932. The divine will can be wanted, commanded, operative, and fulfilled. Example: the creation. My following the divine volition continues. I feel it always over me, an act of enclosing itself in my acts, to have the contentment of saying to me, "Your act is mine, because inside of it there is my life that has formed it." It seems to me that with an invincible patience, but loving, sweet, amiable patience, that enraptures my soul, it observes, it counts when I must operate, move my step, and so forth, to enclose its operating life and the moving of its step in mine, as though wanting to imprison itself in my act, while it remains immense as it is. But who can say what I experience and feel under the empire of the divine will? I am always the little ignorant one who can only say the ABC of the divine will. In many things I lack the terms. And while my mind is full, and who knows how many things I would like to say, yet I try to speak, and cannot find the words to express myself. And therefore I move on. Then my sweet Jesus, surprising me, told me, "My daughter, my will has surprising and different ways of acting, and it acts according to the dispositions of the creatures. Many times it makes known what it wants, but it leaves it up to the disposition of creatures to do it or not do it. And this is called wanted will. Other times, to the volition it adds the command, and it gives double graces, so that the command may be executed. And this is for all Christians. Not doing this means being not even Christians. Another way is the operative one. It descends into the act of the creature and operates as if the act of the creature were its own, and therefore, as its own act, it places in it its life, its sanctity, its operative virtue. But in order to come to this, the soul must be accustomed to the wanted and commanded will, which prepares the void in the human act, in order to receive the operating act of the divine fiat. But it does not stop. The operative act calls for the fulfilled act, and the fulfilled act is the holiest, the most powerful, the most beautiful act, the most refulgent with light, that my divine will can do. And because it is its fulfilled act, everything it has done is enclosed in this act, in such a way that one can see, flowing and enclosed in it, the heavens, the sun, the stars, the sea, the celestial beatitudes, everything and everyone. And I, as though surprised, but how can it be that one act alone can enclose everything? It seems incredible. And Jesus added, Why incredible? Can my will perhaps not do everything and enclose everything, in the great just as in the smallest act? You must know that in the fulfilled acts of my will enters the inseparability of everything it has done and will do. Otherwise, it would not be a single act, but would be subject to a succession of acts, which cannot be, either in our divine being or in our will. And besides, the creation is a tangible example. All created things are inseparable among themselves, but one distinct from the other. Look at the sky, fulfilled act of the Fiat. It acts as footstool to the celestial fatherland up above, where all the happinesses and joys run. It is occupied by all angels and saints, and upon it we form our throne. That same sky forms the azure vault above the heads of the creatures, and in the same space one can see multitudes of stars, but they do not extend beyond the sky. Down below there is the sun, the wind, the air, the sea. But under that same space of heaven, and while each one does its office, their inseparability is such that at the same time and place one can hear and see the sun darting through with its light, the wind whistling and blowing its refreshing breaths. The air makes itself breathed, the sea makes its murmuring heard. It seems that they are fused together, so great is their inseparability. So much so that the creature at the same time and place can enjoy the sky, the sun, the wind, the sea, the flowery earth. The fulfilled acts of my will are not subject to separating, because from the one will from which they came out with the unitive force and power. Therefore it is no wonder that in the fulfilled acts that it does in the creature, it encloses everything, and one can see, portrayed as though seeing through a glass, all its works, while each thing stays at its place. Yet they reflect themselves with an admirable power in the fulfilled act of my will in the act of the creature. This is the reason why the value of a fulfilled act of my will, whether in the creature or outside of her, is so great that as much as we give, we remain always with something to give, because she does not have the capacity to take all the value it contains. She fills herself to the brim, overflows outside, forms seas around herself, and what has she taken? One can say extremely little, because this act encloses the infinite, and the creature is incapable of taking the value of an infinite act of my divine fiat. It would be easier for her to enclose all the light of the sun within the small circle of her pupil. But this too is impossible. She can fill her eye with light, but how many seas of light do not remain outside of her pupil? Why? Because there is a divine fiat in that sun, such that to all pupils it is not given to enclose it. They may take as much light as they want, but as for exhausting it, never. They shall always have something to take. True image of a fulfilled act of my will in the creature. Therefore, be attentive, and let it be its life in your acts. Fiat. January 12th, 1932. Round in the Divine Will. Pledges, advances, and commitments on the part of creatures. Capital on the part of the Creator. Echo which the divine will forms in the creatures. I was doing, according to my usual way, the round in the acts done by the divine will. I felt that in it, and with it, I could embrace everything, remember everything, look at everything of what the divine will had done. It was the infinite theater that made itself present before my little mind, and with divine and innumerable scenes, it made me enjoy unspeakable sweetnesses, and the most beautiful and enchanting scenes that the power of the divine fiat has put out in the round of creation, redemption, and sanctification. It seems it is a round that it made in the course of the centuries, and in this round it has done many beautiful, marvelous things, such as to astonish heaven and earth. And it made this round in order to make us go around it, to make known to us how much it can do and is able to do for love of us. So while I was going around in the infinite round of the divine volition, my lovable Jesus, visiting his little newborn, told me, "My little daughter of my will, if you knew how much I enjoy seeing you go around in the infinite round of my supreme fiat, and as I see you pause, as though surprised, in front of its prodigies, its admirable and adorable works, its enchanting and enrapturing scenes, in my ardor of love I say, how happy I am that my daughter is the spectator and enjoys scenes so admirable of the will that created her." But this is not enough. You must know that in order to purchase a property, it is necessary for the one who must sell it to give to the one who must acquire it the freedom to visit it, almost leading him by the hand in order to let him know all the goods that are in it, the fountains it possesses, the rarity and preciousness of the plants, the fertility of the ground. And this serves to charm the one who must purchase it. And it is necessary for the one who must purchase it to give some advances, to make some substantial commitments, in order to bind the one who must sell the property, so that it may not escape him. Now, blessed daughter, since I want to give the kingdom of my divine will, it is necessary for you to go around in its divine properties. And I, leading you by the hand, make known to you its interminable seas, the goods, the prodigies, the surprising marvels, the joys, the happinesses, all things of infinite value which it possesses, so that, by knowing it, you may love it and become so enamored that not only would you not be able to live without it, but you would lay down your life to purchase a kingdom so holy, peaceful, and beautiful. But this is not all yet. Your part is needed. Your pledges, your advances, and commitments, and our love and goodness, wanting to give our will as property that belongs to the creature, is so great that it places at her disposal what our will has done, so that she may use it as the equivalent pledges and commitments in order to receive a gift so great. Now, as you go around in the creation, and you look at the heavens, and you delight in seeing the beautiful azure vault studded with stars, the sun radiant with light, and you recognize and feel the divine Fiat still palpitating, having created them for love of creatures, and unleashing from your heart your little love. You love the one who has so much loved you. Your love is imprinted in the height of the heavens, in the light of the sun, and you give us the heavens as pledge, the stars as advance, the sun as commitment, because for you it was created. And it is enough that you possess our will as your life, for it to be already yours, and to be used as the valid commitment in order to obtain its kingdom. The same as you go around in all the other created things, and you recognize them, and you love us. And for as many times as you repeat your rounds, so many times do you repeat the pledges, make the commitments, and commit us to dispose things, to give graces, helps, in order to give, as kingdom, the great gift of the Fiat Voluntas Tua, on earth as it is in heaven. We know that the creature has nothing to give us, and our love imposes itself in order to give our acts as if they were her own, placing our works in her hands as divine currency, so that she may have sufficient means to be able to negotiate with our Supreme Being. Though she has nothing, she has her little love, unleashed by our own in the act of creating her. Therefore, She has a particle of the infinite love of God. And when the creature loves us, she places the infinite in attitude, and we feel the magnetic force of the particle of our infinite love that, hovering about, loves us in her, rises, extends, reaches unto us, and wants to enter into the infinite from which it came out. Oh, how it enraptures us! And in the ardor of our love, we say, who can resist the power of our infinite love that unleashes itself from the creature and loves us? To give heavens and earth seems little to us, in order to repay her for her little love, which, though little, possesses the particle of the infinite. And this is enough for us. Oh, how sweet and dear is this precious pledge of the love of the creature! And since there is nothing in the round of the centuries that has not come out of our will, your going around in the creation of man is a visit that you make to it, in order to know what it operated, and in what seas of graces, of sanctity, of love, he was placed in the act of being created. And you would want to make that love all yours in order to love us. And you commit us with those same acts with which we created man. In the same way, when you go around in the creation of the Virgin, in her seas of graces, in my coming upon earth, and in everything I did and suffered, you place as commitment the Queen of Heaven, my very life, and all my acts. My will is everything, and in order to give itself to the creature, it wants to be recognized. It wants to interact. It wants to negotiate with her. And the more you visit it in its acts, the more bound and committed it finds itself, and it begins the dispersing of its capital. All the truths, the knowledges I have given you about my divine will. Has this perhaps not been the capital I have made in your soul? And it is so exuberant that it can fill the whole entire world with light, with love, with sanctity, with graces, with peace. And was it perhaps not after a round you did in its acts that I was already waiting for you with all love, in order to give you its pledges and advances, that its kingdom would come upon earth? You gave your pledges, and my Fiat gave you its own. It can be said that each truth and word it spoke about it was a measure it took in order to form this kingdom, a call up it made in order to form its army, a capital it dispersed in order to maintain it, joys and delights to draw creatures, divine strength to conquer them. In fact, we first do deeds, order everything, and then we show and make known the deeds we have done. And since we want to give this good to the creatures, it is just and reasonable that we deal at least with one creature, so that from one it may pass to another. We do not do our works in the air, but we want a little shelf on which to form our greatest works. Wasn't the Queen of Heaven our little shelf in the great work of redemption, which then extended to all and to whoever wants it? Therefore, let your flight and my will be continuous, so that the two of you may exchange, you your pledges, and my will its capitals, in order to accelerate its kingdom onto the face of the earth. After this, I felt more than usual all immersed in the divine Fiat. And my sovereign Jesus added, "My daughter, when my divine will operates in the soul, one knows it immediately. As it operates, it lays in the human being gentleness, sweetness, peace, fortitude, firmness. Before it operates, it blows into it and impresses in it its omnipotent Fiat, which extends its heaven around the work it wants to do. It seems that without its heaven, my will is unable to operate. And while it operates, it makes its sweet, harmonious echo resound in the three divine persons, keeping them aware of what it is doing in the soul. In fact, since the will that is operating in her is one with that of the divine persons, it happens that whatever it does in the divine persons, it makes its powerful echo resound in the creature. And in this echo, it brings to her the admirable secrets, the ineffable sweetnesses, the inseparable love as the divine persons love one another, and the sweet accord among them. This echo is the bearer of the most intimate things of the Supreme Being into the creature. Wherever my will is operating, the echo of one fuses in the other. The one up above makes itself the divine revealer. The one from below, resounding in God, has the virtue of speaking powerfully, with divine manners, of the good of the creatures, and of the same love that they have for them. There is a footnote here that "they" refers to the divine persons. My will, with its power, forms the sweet chains, and identifies and transforms God and the creature in such a way that God feels redone in the creature, and she feels redone in God. Oh, my will, how admirable and powerful you are! Extend your sweet chains, and bind God and creatures, so that all may return into my divine womb. Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 30, Part 5. Fiat.